Hey up, welcome to the Cannonall Farm podcast. With us, the Nicholson brothers farmers Rob and Dave.
We're two Yorkshire farmers who, along with our dad Roger, brother Rich and the rest of our family, have turned a farm with 2 sheds and a barn into an award-winning tourist attraction.
You've seen us on telly, live on Facebook, and now we've got our very own podcast.
On today's episode, it's all about lambing. The highs, the lows, the triumphs, the tragedies, everything that goes into making lambing time the hardest but the most rewarding time of year.
Coming up.
We need to be obviously humble, don't we, and friendly, and make sure that we make good connections along our sheep showing journey.
Have a few pints with them.
Yeah.
And then we could talk about half pint.
Yeah.
And his lambs.
Yeah. Come and have a pint with us and we'll sell you half pint later. Right, Dave, today we're talking about lambing and Easter and all that sort of stuff. But before then, what have you been up to this week?
And I can't talk about lambing.
Well, better if you talk about something else.
Okay, well, I suppose the builders have gone on holiday, right? They've gone away on a fishing trip.
So is that like your opportunity to do your own thing?
But it's like having a holiday as well, you know, but at home. So basically, I've been tidying up bits where the builders have left things, and I've still got, I noticed today, you know, near Tube Maze,
Yeah.
there's a wheelbarrow being chucked over at wall and 2 big ply sheets, so that's my job for tomorrow.
And has that got Dick's DNA all over
Well,
it?
the sheets are big, so it's got Dick and Colsey.
Yeah.
They've both chucked them over there and forgotten about them.
Right. So, Dick, if you're watching, he's on to you. Don't do it again. Right. This week, I have been busy, right?
Yeah.
With lots of lambing, but we can't talk about lambing.
No, that's true.
Right? But I've not been busy with anything else, so it's all been about lambing. So, yeah.
So nothing, no...
Well, what have I done other than lambing?
Well, we've been looking at buying a new Shire horse, haven't we, as well?
We've been trying to make sure that next year we've got as many Shire foals as possible. There's a potential that we might have 5. I think so far 2 are scanned pregnant.
Yeah.
Another 2 served, and 1 we're waiting to meet the right man.
But, again, when they're actually scanned pregnant, it don't mean you're going to get a foal because they can reabsorb their eggs and the embryos. So, you know, last year we were expecting 4 baby Shire horses. We got 1.
Yeah, they're a rare breed for a reason because they're tough to deal with. But if we keep scanning and keep repeating visits to meet the chap, then we've a better chance of knowing of realising more foals. So that's what we're going to keep doing. We're going to invest time and money into making sure we have as many as possible.
Now, having a chat with Nikki earlier, head of marketing, and I asked her about my. I did a video with when I lambed a sheep. I know we can't talk about lambing, but it's quite interesting, really, because she knows exactly how many new people watched that video compared with everybody else, and how many people joined, our social media because of it.
Right.
We got an extra 400 people join our little collective.
Right. Collective, nice. Right. So if anyone else would like to join our little collective, then press the like button, press the follow.
On Instagram, Facebook, or even TikTok.
And YouTube.
On YouTube as well. That's 4.
Yeah.
Is there any more, Henry? Dale, any more places we're visible?
That's them all. We also do a podcast, don't we?
Oh, yeah. If you'd like to listen to the podcast, just, don't turn off.
And it's absolutely free. So, yeah, please like and share and spread the gospel of Cannonall Farm further and wider. And thank you very much for doing so.
So, Rob, we've put it off long enough. Should we talk about lambing? After all, it is springtime.
I would love to talk about lambing because it's all I can talk about. I've been doing nothing else. So, lambing, here we come. Right. It's April now, but obviously lambing for us started much earlier than that. Should we go back to the 4th of January?
We might as well. And our first pedigree Dutch spotted lambs were, just coming out.
Did you find your beer cool enough?
My beer was lovely, thanks, Rob. Yeah. I missed the first 4 days of lambing. I think I came back on the 8th. But, yeah, a nice cold beer on the mountain was very nice. I went off skiing, but you know you got to take your breaks when you can, and you know you've got a good man at home, right, to look after things. That's the main thing.
Well, January for me went better than we could ever have expected. We've got all the pedigree Dutch spotted sheep, or half the pedigree Dutch spotted sheep to lamb. In general, they did really well. We maybe lost 2 or 3 lambs out of the whole thing, something like that, which was incredible. And they've grown and prospered to a degree that we've never had before. I think the reason they've done so is because we kept them inside, because we didn't cast them adrift to the vagaries of the weather. We kept them toasty warm and wrapped in cotton wool.
Yeah, and they had like extra feed the lambs, so they could go and nibble on some nuts or some little pellets, if you want to call them that. And yeah, they were good.
I think the only way you can compete at the top level of sheep showing is if they never have a setback.
Yeah.
Is if they're born successfully and then every stage it goes well. And by keeping them in the barns, it gave us more control over that period. Thankfully now they're outside and they look absolutely fantastic. The weather at the moment's really suiting them. So far they've not had one setback. So I'm dreading the time I see one limping or see one with a dirty bottom, meaning it's got worms or anything like that. So far they've had zero setbacks.
But we know where they are. We've got a sheep handling facility. We can get them straight in. We can vaccinate them. We can treat them for worms. We can run them through the foot bath. It's all there. And yeah, I think that's having the right facilities is key to looking after your sheep. And we've only just got it because over this side of the road, we only built it late summer, but it certainly did the trick.
This sheep job for us is such a departure from what we've done in the past. We've got pedigree sheep and we know to compete, we're going to have to do them really, really well. And I can't tell you how good they look. I honestly think they look as good as they could possibly look. I think the genetics are great. I'm totally excited for this year. I just hope there isn't something out there like a blue tongue outbreak, like a foot and mouth outbreak.
Yeah.
Something to bring our world
to burst
crashing.
our bubble.
Yeah. I just feel as though it's going too well. I feel as though there's got to be a setback coming somewhere, but maybe that's just me being negative.
Well, we are thinking about vaccinating for blue tongue. Now, if people don't know about blue tongue, the symptoms are similar to foot and mouth. 20% of your flock actually die if they get it, and the rest get immunity for a spell anyway. But and it's carried by little midges, and they bite the sheep and infect the sheep that way.
I think actually, Dave, it can be up to 30%.
Well, yeah, if it's that bad,
right? Things are going so well at the moment. They look great. They look fantastic, and it's hard not to get carried away with the potential that we've got. But then you see things that could come along and burst that bubble. But it just makes you more determined to do things properly. In addition to the January ones, we had more pedigree ones born in February. They're doing fantastic. They're outside. They're enjoying life out on the hill at Mill Farm. And then we've got more pedigrees in March, and then the main flock are being born at the moment. So there's all kinds of interesting little things happening.
And it's quite interesting. When the February ones were born, there were a lot kind of smaller lambs than the January ones.
Yeah.
And I think that's because the January ones the grass was a little bit better. They were eating.
I think we got the January ones just a little bit bigger than ideally we would have done, wouldn't we?
Well, probably. And plus those little lambs in February, it took them a while to show the potential, but now they're actually catching the others up, and they're looking. We might even have some better sheep in that batch.
It's such a difficult thing. Feeding sheep in late pregnancy is so nuanced, it's unbelievable. You think you've got it right, and all of a sudden the lamb's too big, it's too small, they've got no milk. Yeah. There are so many things that seem to just differ a little bit, but they're animals, not machines, and you can't always get it just how you want. But yeah, in general, I think we've done well.
Yeah, you never get all your flock perfect. Some of the time,
Look at that one this morning.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tiny. We've had a lamb born this morning that would just about fit in the palm of my hand. It's a pedigree Dutch spotted, and it is absolutely tiny, but it looks like a fighter.
Yeah, and it's out of one of the biggest sheep we've got.
Yeah.
And you'd think, well, that'd feed it all right, but obviously it wasn't quite the case.
Sometimes they can have a compromised blood supply, can't they, that doesn't just do them quite as well as... But it's got all the room in the world to grow, and it's got all the time it needs, and I think it'll get there in the end.
So is there any particular lambing that you've done that stands out in your head that you think, I did well there?
I did one last week, and I said it was the best lambing I've ever done, and I've forgotten it.
Well, it must have been good then.
Yeah. How can I forget the best lambing I've ever done?
Was it?
Oh, I know what it was. It was that really good ewe. You know, the really broad one.
Oh, yeah.
The one that she looks, without being disrespectful to her, she looks a little bit like a pig because she's so muscular, isn't she? And so rounded. But she had the tightest of pelvises. It was unbelievable how small for such a wide ewe, a pelvis was tiny.
Yeah.
I couldn't hardly get my hand through, and I was relying on her just pushing at the right time. But I was really patient. I didn't rush it, and I just waited. I got those legs there. I could feel the nose, and I just waited till she gave a little push, and I was able to bring those legs forward, and the head followed. And I was so relieved because I wasn't sure how we were going to get that, other than a cesarean. And quite often with something like that, you'd be too late.
Yeah. I mean, there was one or two that spring to my mind. What I did, I used the laminade, where it's kind of like a catapult with a wire that goes through it on a loop, and when you put it into the mum, you push the wire, it makes a circle which you put over the lamb's head, and then you tighten the wire, and it, you know, the V stops anything, you know, kind of any supply to the neck.
Does the V go in its mouth or under its mouth?
Under its mouth.
Its neck.
So it never tightens around its neck. It's very cleverly designed.
So just to add a bit of context to this sort of wire that goes around the back of the head, it sounds quite a drastic thing, but without that, to draw the head forward, you're relying on a push. Well, sometimes you don't get a push, or you put in a rope round the back of the head, which takes a little bit more doing, and will tighten in a less regulated way.
Exactly. So the rope that you put around a lamb's head, I can do that. It takes a bit of time. You kind of shove it behind its both ears, then you pull it tight, and then you draw it through the pelvis with the legs, because the legs already have a rope on them, and out it comes. Now with this device, it's a bit like a small catapult, but you can from the catapult ends, the loop gets bigger or smaller depending on when you pull it. So you can loop it around the lamb's head. Because it's wire, it's a little bit more rigid and easier to get over. So, you know, I've used that a couple of times, and it's a quick way of getting that lamb out.
I think it all sounds quite graphic, this, but when you put your hand inside a ewe, which you need to do sometimes to assist in the delivery, sometimes the uterus is big like a cave. Sometimes it's very narrow like a tunnel, and you've got to try and weigh what's best, you know, what contraption, what method, what solution to the problem is best to get that lamb born, because ultimately we need those lambs to be born successfully, don't we? And touch wood, I don't want to put mockers on anything, but we've not needed a cesarean yet, have we, this year?
No.
I hope that does not mean we have one today.
Well, odds on we get one or two, don't we?
Yeah.
But we're past halfway.
Far, we've done well, haven't we? If you haven't been able to get them, I've been able to get them. If I haven't been able to get them, you've been able to get them.
Yeah.
So between the two of us, we've managed to deliver every lamb with relatively few casualties.
And Philip as well, of course.
Philip
helped me out with a real tough one the other day.
Yeah.
My hand were getting tired. And that's one of the things when you're lambing, when you've been kind of making more space, you know, getting a bit more room for the lamb to come out, you do get a bit of cramp in your hands.
Between the three of us, we've had all situations covered, haven't we? Which so far, it's so good, and it's really pleasing because it's nice to know that you're not the last option. That there is another person who can try, because if it's all on your shoulders and you can't get it and your hand becomes tired, then you're stuffed and the sheep's stuffed and you know that lamb's not going to make it. There's nothing more stressful than feeling that lamb inside and knowing it's alive because it's moving and thinking, oh, come on. There was one yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, I think a supporter videoed it and put it on the supporters group last night. And it was so difficult to the point where I said to Ruth, just ring David and see if he can come down, because I'm tiring and I can't get it. You were there, Dale, weren't you? Yeah. And I think we changed position on it, didn't we? And all of a sudden, I felt give a little push, just pushed it through into the mouth of the pelvis. And I said to Dale, just pull those ropes now. And there's no better feeling than when you know you've got it. And we got it, and it was alive. So
yeah, I mean, it can be really rewarding and it can be really devastating lambing. But like you say, touch a bit of wood. We're not doing bad. And we've got another couple of weeks to go, really.
So what about, David, when you've got... There are times when we've got literally hundreds of people watching us.
Yeah.
Do you relish that? Do you think, oh, crikey? Is it more pressure when we're live on Facebook? Is there more pressure when the television cameras are there? What does it for you?
Customers watching, I've kind of blanked them out now.
Yeah.
You're just focused on the job you're doing. Facebook, if somebody's chatting...
Can that put you off?
Chatting can put you off a tiny bit, but not much. I think,
Dale was asking me questions yesterday when we were filming, and it just got to the point where I stopped answering, didn't I? I didn't want to be rude, but I was just trying to...
Focus.
Yeah, just trying to work it out. What could I do next to give us the best possible chance of success?
And I think moving the U is a key thing. Yeah. Either lay it down, stand it up, just move it on its side. Sometimes we roll it all the way over.
Yeah, I've never tried that.
And that can work sometimes. Yeah. So, but when you're kind of running out of options, you kind of start doing these other options.
You know what I do sometimes, and I've done it when I'm on my own. Say if the U stood up, I try and put the back legs on the floor, leave the front legs stood up so it's got gravity.
I've seen you do that.
So that you've got, because otherwise you're pulling, it's like pushing water uphill. Yeah. You're pulling the lamb uphill and hoping the head's going to follow. I always think if the U is up on the front legs and down on the back legs, you've got that gravity to help you for the head to follow.
Whatever works, works, and sometimes you just need that little bit of luck.
So we've talked a lot about this year's lambing, but if you cast your mind back to that shy youth of yesteryear, when you were just in your teens,
with a few spots.
Well, I won't want to say that, but that shy youth of yesteryear, right? How many sheep do you think you've lambed over the years, and how has your technique changed in that time?
Well, numbers then first. If you think about it, we'll probably do about 50 a year, won't we?
Yeah.
Around that. Yeah. Sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on what's going off. Whether you're lambing gimmers, shearlings. First-time lammers take a little bit more delivering than a seasoned ewe. So 50 a year, 35 years. I'm 55 this time.
Give it 40.
40 a year.
Yeah. 4 5s are 20, that's 2,000.
Well, over 2,000 then.
Yeah.
And technique-wise, I still change it. You will... What works for one sheep or one lamb, doesn't always work for the next one. Sometimes I use a rope to put round the little lamb's head if I need to bring it through the pelvis. Sometimes I use the laminade. Sometimes I use my hand. I put my hand behind its head, and if there's room in the pelvis, I'll bring that through with my hand at the same time. And plus reviving sheep as well. We used to swing them a lot.
Yeah.
We don't really swing them that much now. What we tend to do is get them on the floor, clear the nostrils, open the mouth, and blow into the lamb's mouth. And I think that, out of everything we've done,
seems to work.
It works because like today, I had a lamb that was practically lifeless. I saw virtually no sign of life at all, and then a couple of blows into the mouth, over say 30 seconds. And then I could feel it bite down onto my finger, and then its tongue moved a little bit, and all of a sudden, their head was nearly up, and 3 or 4 minutes later, its head was there.
If you can inflate them lungs, it's got to give you a better chance, hasn't it?
If it ain't got the energy to even open its mouth, right, it's not going to breathe, is it?
No. And if those lungs are a little bit, they can be collapsed, can't they? After going through such a narrow
passage,
exit vessel as the vagina is.
So basically, I'll put my finger in the little lamb's mouth through the gap there. I'm not being drawn by the language, and then I'll blow into its mouth. How about you, Rob?
Right. Well, I'm a bit more old school.
Yeah.
Right. I don't go in for ropes as much as you. I do use them if I have to, but I think my skills are better. What I try and do, if possible, and it's not always possible, is work with mum with her contractions and pushes. I use my hand behind the head, which is fine when there's room. I accept when there isn't room, you have a bit of a pickle. I'm not as good at putting, because this finger, right? Look at that finger.
It's bent.
Right. I don't seem to be able to get ropes on inside the U as effectively as you do. So I think we've just got slightly different techniques. I rely more on pulling through with my hands and getting my hand behind the head. However, I will put the rope on the legs if I have to, and then try and get the hand behind. So
yeah,
I think I'm slightly constrained by that. I wish I could use that new contraption better, but I don't like to practice on the job, sort of, because I always feel as though if I get it wrong, then we might lose one that I could have got in a more conventional way. So, yeah, I'm a bit more old school, but I've got a system that works for me most of the time.
Yeah, and you can get sheep that I can't get, and vice versa.
But equally, if I know we need that contraption on and it's tight, I'll say, "Here, Dave, have a look at that."
Yeah.
So between the two of us, we seem to be able to get most.
Yeah. Which is good, and I don't mind letting someone else have a go, because if I'm struggling, that lamb comes first, not your pride, and let someone else have a go and see if they can deliver it.
No, that's got to be the animal should always come first, and will always come first.
And I've got to say, lambing is a bad spectator sport. If you think someone's struggling, you think, let me have a go.
Yeah.
Let me have a go. I can get that lamb out.
Yeah.
And it's not always the case, is it?
So going back to yesteryear, when we first started lambing, we would only have 120 sheep, wouldn't we? And we've had as many as 500 or 600, haven't we, in recent years? Probably got 400 at the moment.
Yeah, we've had a lot of sheep, and and 400 is not a bad number.
No, I think this year's been bordering on enjoyable, I think.
Yeah, but we're gonna sell a couple more, some more pedigrees. We've got some great pedigree Dutch spotted sheep to sell as shearlings. So we're just gonna keep our pedigree flock the right size and spread those genetics to other flocks.
I think what our aim is, is to lamb in January and February with pedigrees.
Yeah.
And then the Easter lambing be the main flock.
Yeah.
And so that we get all the early ones, the ones that could potentially make show sheep, that they come out good and early, to give them all the time to grow and to be the best version of themselves they can be. And then the other ones for Easter don't matter as much. They can grow on more steadily and grow in their own time.
Now, what I'm excited about as well, we bought a brand new ram, half pint from Northern Ireland. Was he 14,000 guineas?
14,000 guineas.
Right, so it's a big expense.
Yeah.
But his lambs will be coming up in the sales quite soon.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to know if there's any interest out there, because that's a different bloodline for people. And we've got some nice looking rams to take to shows, and then usually it's a show and sale.
We've got a great ram, a shearling ram this year called Hierarchy, and I think he's the best sheep we've ever bred.
Yeah, well, that's another ram, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we've got some off him as well.
And we've bred off him as well.
So it's going to be interesting which ram has produced the best rams.
Yeah.
I love this pedigree breeding.
Yeah, this aspect of it is totally new to us, and it makes the whole thing more interesting, not less interesting. What will that tup produce if it's, we've got a ewe called Boadicea. We put Boadicea to half pint, our expensive ram.
Yeah.
Boadicea won the championship at Westmoreland.
Yeah.
And we think the world of her, don't we? She's the best sheep we've ever bred, possibly. It might be Hierarchy, but not. Anyway, she's up there. And what will her lamb look like that? What would it look like if we put her to another one? All these little nuances of, that one's got a great top line, it's got great width, its head and ears aren't quite as good, so why don't we put it to half pint who's got great head and ears?
Yeah.
You might think head and ears, well, what's so special about them? But the best sheep have got it in every department, haven't they? And that's why they win.
And that's why it's so interesting. And it's good to see what other people are producing as well. You'll have a little look around at everybody's and you think, oh, that's a good one. Will the judge like it as much as ours?
When we go to the Yorkshire Show this year, we'll meet up with all the Dutch spotted community. Right, and they're friendly people.
Yeah.
And it's important that when we go to shows, we go out of our way to be warm and welcoming and friendly to everyone, because they'll see us and they'll think, oh, it's them off telly, they're big time billies or whatever. And we're not, and we never want to come across that way. We need to be obviously humble, don't we, and friendly, and make sure that we make good connections along our sheep showing journey.
Have a few pints with them.
Yeah. There's nothing like a pint to break down barriers and get to know people better.
Yeah, and then we could talk about Half Pint.
Yeah.
And his lambs.
Yeah. Come and have a pint with us and we'll sell you half pint later. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Cannon Hall Farm podcast.
Don't forget, we're on the telly again this Easter, 15th of April, 8 o'clock, on 5, Springtime on the Farm.
On next week's episode of the Cannon Hall Farm podcast, we'll be dishing all the dirt and gossip about recording week. There's a lot to be said.
Well, what can I say?
Well, we'll find out what you said next week. But until then, I've been Farmer Rob.
I've been Farmer Dave.
Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.